Wife threatened to frame me for anything once I found her affair. So I installed cameras that exposed her lies and assisted me during the divorce proceedings. My children found a small bunny a few days ago and begged us to keep it. However, we cannot maintain a wild rabbit because we already have other pets. The bunny was big enough to fend for itself, and I tried to gently remind my children that it needed to return home to its family. They were sad but decided to return it. However, I was unable to accompany them due to business obligations, so my wife did. I urged her to take the rabbit to some thorn bushes at the end of the property and let it go because there was the safest location for it. We dwell in a predator-rich countryside. While I returned to work, my children came running back into the house, loudly weeping, with my wife trailing behind, attempting to calm them down and assure them that everything was well. When I questioned what happened, my eldest told me that Mama let them release the bunny out in the center of the yard, and a hawk got it. They even recounted the poor bunny's screams. I was ashamed, then angry with my wife for not following my advice. She defended herself, saying it was simply a goodbye. The children will get over it. But I claimed it was completely wrong. And I warned her about predators. And now our children had to witness that unfortunate rabbit being taken away by a hawk. Both of our children locked themselves in their rooms and stopped talking to their mother for days, and when she attempts to communicate to them, they call her the bunny cougar. I've attempted to mediate, but my kids are still upset, and I'm still upset with my wife for the way things transpired. She's upset with me for not having her back and says, as husband and wife, we're always supposed to support each other. But we got into a fight, and I pointed out several times that she has not had my back. She, too, began crying and has gone to her room to pout. I guess I made a mistake. So a friend suggested I ask her to edit. Yes, I understand that hawks need to eat, and they are abundant in our area. I really didn't want my children to witness anything so young. They are 4 and 5 years old. I grew up in the country, and my wife was a city girl. And when I was younger, any similar situation with a captured wild animal, we try to let go in a location where it has a fighting chance as well. I did not yell at my wife. Where in my post does it state that I did that? I admonished her, but I did not yell. Not even when we argued. Later on, we whispered so the kids wouldn't hear us. I couldn't join them in releasing the bunny since I couldn't leave my office. I worked from home part of the week and had to be near the phone at all times to answer a call while on the clock, except during my lunch break. I've also never called my wife the BK nickname. Our kids are calling her after what occurred with the bunny, and I've tried to get them to stop. I won't call my wife that. It's demeaning, and I'd be behaving like a bully. Edit 3. I apologize for the several revisions, but my children were not playing in the yard unaccompanied. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and was present when they discovered the bunny. They ran back to the house with it, and I had to tell them it needed to be released. Edit 4. I can't believe I have to make another edit, but people keep pointing things out. No, this was not copied from an online video. I have not seen the video, but I have no doubt it exists. However, hawks frequently prey on small animals. So, is it really unexpected that this happened to persons other than those who took a video of a similar situation? I surely do not think so. My property is almost entirely grassy, except for the home and a single tree. The landscape is flat. I own 4 acres. The grass was mowed on Sunday, so it was quite short. That unfortunate rabbit might as well have had a target on its back because hawks are constantly circling the area. I've been battling hawks since I was a child, carting tiny chicks with my old pellet pistol. Little rabbits are one of their favorite things to grasp. So I told my wife to let the bunny go into the bushes. Edit 5. I'm so sick and tired of people arguing that hawks can eat too, or circle of life, or Gouda, for defying nature. When I was a kid, I had to keep animals safe from hawks for my grandparents. Farmers have the right to defend their animals from predators, too. We were not going to allow the hawks come in and grab all the newborn chicks they wanted, as they would have done every day. Yes, I was out there with a pellet gun, but that did more to deter the hawks than anything. I never did shoot one down. Yes, I hit a few, but only barely. And all it ever did was make them turn around and fly away. And I haven't shot a hawk in 25 years. I have never enjoyed shooting anything alive. My grandfather was the one out there with real guns, taking down hawks and coyotes. But I grew up being intimately familiar with hawks hunting small creatures. Hawks have no trouble finding food. They can be found all across our area, but they, like other predators, are opportunistic. This is why I wanted to let the bunny go into the bushes. But, as I indicated in a previous edit, I was unable to leave my desk for reasons that many people still do not understand or did not bother to read. Update. I'm not sure whether this is the correct sub, but I can't think of some place else to put it, for those who remember me. I'm the guy whose wife forced our kids to release a wild bunny in the center of the yard against my advice to have them take it to the bushes to safely release it. A hawk grabbed the bunny directly in front of our two young children, who were 4 and 5 years old at the time, and they freaked out on their mother before running back to me in tears. Our children began calling their mother the Bunny Slaughter. That name seems suitable now, and others have referred to her as such since her affair became public. What happened to that poor bunny is ancient history compared to what I'm about to tell you. I'm speaking as a liberated man who finished his divorce a few months ago. This is going to be somewhat long and complicated, so buckle up. Edit AP stands for an equal partner. I apologize for not making that apparent sooner. I showed my wife my initial Reddit post, and she was furious with me. So much so that it sparked an argument, and I received the silent treatment for the next week. Following the bunny incident, I tried to get my kids to stop mistreating their mother. Despite being penalized with minor groundings and timeouts, the BS, every time our children became furious with their mother, their nickname came back to them. After a few weeks, my wife gave up on her cold shoulder approach and admitted she should have listened to me about the rabbit and taken it to the bushes, as I advised. She explained that she merely felt compelled to defend herself since she did not want to be wrong. I accepted their apology and apologized for creating the Reddit post. I suggested we go to marriage counseling, but she refused. She pretended there was nothing wrong with our marriage, and I chose not to press the subject any further because things appeared to be improving. But after a few weeks, my eldest approached me, claiming she wanted to tell me something. She was upset with her mother for reasons other than the bunny, but she was afraid to tell me. I consoled her and said she could tell me anything. Well, what she said stunned me and altered everything in an instant. She stated that Mama had been bringing a man over for several months. Some Saturdays, I was at work and referred to him as her particular friend. She used various forms of bribes to keep her children quiet about it, but my eldest sensed something was extremely wrong and spent some time getting up the nerve to tell me. Kids know things and pick up on things quickly. I truly despise it when people ignore those truths. I'd noticed my wife acting unusually lately. She had become more abrupt with everyone, particularly the children. I tried to talk to her about it when I showed her my first post, but she simply went off on me about anything she could think of. They mocked my appearance, behavior, habits, and even my family. She even mentioned that I used to smoke. I resigned more than 10 years ago. She then resorted to locking me out of our bedroom and crying so loudly that it could be heard throughout the house. So, when my eldest approached me, I was able to connect the dots. She was cheating, and her conduct mirrored the mood swings she had while pregnant with both of our children. Similar, I say, since it was far worse. According to what I've learned from online research, acquaintances, and even a counselor, my wife was both grumpy due to hormones and projecting as a result of her adultery. I don't claim to be an expert in psychology, but it seems reasonable. I wanted it all to be a misunderstanding, so I immediately ordered and installed a few covert cameras without anyone's knowledge. I had them sent to work so that no one at home would see them. Then I scheduled them for a day. My wife went out for a girls' night with her buddies. It was quite simple to connect them to the Wi-Fi. In just a few hours, I could monitor every aspect of the house using my home PC, laptop, and work PC. At first, I was concerned that I had gone too far. I reasoned that if I was mistaken, I could simply remove the cameras and no one would notice. But no, my greatest worries were proven, as I gathered a lot of proof in just the first week. My wife has appointed a former co-worker as her AP. I remembered him well since he seemed close to my wife whenever I saw him at various gatherings. My wife resigned her work years ago to be a full-time mother after becoming pregnant with our first child. We both made the decision at the same moment. My wife maintained contact with her old coworkers because they were her greatest pals, but not anymore. What I'm about to tell you has made her disliked by everyone. First and foremost, the AP is roughly a decade younger than my wife. She mentored him in her previous work to take her role after she left, and the two of them remain close. Extremely close. My wife and I are both over 40, although you wouldn't know it by looking at her. She's absolutely gorgeous. She was frequently mistaken for someone in their 20s, which I believe she took advantage of. I ended up telling my sister what was going on and showing her the film from the nanny cameras. She informed me she'd had suspicions for a while and had observed my wife getting too near to a man at a neighborhood bar. That was not me. They never kissed or did anything while she was watching. Just a lot of touching on the shoulders and lower back. And because she wasn't certain, she didn't inform me sooner. I also ordered a GPS tracker, which I concealed in the trunk of my wife's car once it was operational. My sister and her husband agreed to assist me and follow the tracker on my wife's next planned night out with friends. She went to a completely different location, 20 miles away from her usual destination. From there, she met with AP. My sister and brother-in-law watched them from their car for a bit and noticed AP constantly touching her belly while they talked. They also shot video of this. When I saw the footage, I realized she must be pregnant with his child because she was so cranky at home. My sister and Bill had to calm me down because I had devolved into a complete disaster. I wanted to self-medicate with alcohol, but my sister wisely advised me that drinking was the worst thing I could do at the time. Later, I decided to take a leave of absence from work, but informed my wife that I would be on a business trip. She couldn't have been more excited, and she made no effort to hide her delight that I'd be gone for a time. Who is this woman? She is not the person I married nearly 20 years ago, right? Did someone who looks just like her take her place one day? Is she an alien from the pod people? Did I ever truly know her? The more I considered it, the less it made sense to me. So, in the end, I concluded that trying to make meaning of anything, it wouldn't do me any good. I had cameras all over the house, and my sister and brother-in-law agreed to keep my children for a few days because they enjoy seeing Annie and Uncle in the city. This offered my wife the exact opening she was looking for. She contacted AP within a few hours after I left, and he arrived that evening to spend the night. I'm not going to go into detail about what they did around the house. You can fill up those details yourself. In addition, they were always making fun of me. They openly discussed their kid and how they wanted to figure out what to do before her tummy began to show, since she was already more than 3 months along by then. And it couldn't be passed off as mine. Because AP is a different race than myself, it would be rather obvious that the baby would not be mine from birth. My wife dismissed AP's concerns, saying they had months to straighten things out. Then she shamelessly stated that this wasn't her first affair, having slept with another man when she was 29. She told AP she was wary of having to be the nice housewife and being around a dull man like me who made her feel old, and if it hadn't been for my financial stability, she would have left me long ago. Even her AP questioned her about her plans for her children. Her precise words were, "You can have them." She didn't want to be around our kids anymore because she thought they preferred me and should soon have her do-over baby anyway. I almost flung the laptop on the floor of my motel room because I was so disgusted. But I controlled myself, drank a few beers from a 6-pack, ate at a diner, and then watched a movie. After that, I spent half of the night laying in bed, contemplating, before falling asleep. I thought I knew my wife rather well. I adored her and would have given her everything I had. But in the end, some people are simply evil. And you'll never know who they are until they unveil their genuine nature. I made up my mind right there to destroy her in a divorce. I'm typically a really nice and friendly man, but when I get furious, I can become your worst nightmare. The next day, I went to a divorce law firm and requested for the meanest lawyer they had. I live in an adult state, therefore my wife was screwed the instant I caught her affair on video. The lawyer was first concerned that I wanted to engage him so quickly, but I described my predicament in greater detail. I even showed him some video footage. That's when he gave a mischievous grin. We shook hands. He said he'd get started right immediately because this was the type of issue that divorce lawyers enjoy working on. I had my wife served a few weeks later on a day when I was working from home and the kids were in school, the eldest in kindergarten and the younger in preschool. The documents were presented directly to my wife by the local sheriff. The cameras captured it all. She appeared terrified as she opened the letter, read its contents, and suddenly lost her mind. She ran into my office to yell at me, but I kept cool and composed throughout. I had already psychologically checked out of our marriage. My wife wanted to quarrel. I just informed her I had made up my mind and wanted her out of my house. I'm the only one who has ever paid for the mortgage. She screamed at me, I can't do this to her, and then threatened to tell others I'd beat her if I took her to court and got fired from my work. I told her she could make up any lie she wanted. It will not assist her. It's not like she wasn't going to screw me over, given that she's pregnant with her APS baby. She got wide-eyed and questioned how much I knew. I just told her I knew enough and that I wanted her to leave. She refused, saying it was as much her house as mine, and then closed herself in the bedroom again. I observed on the bedroom cams that she was having a meltdown before pulling out her phone and contacting police. She was acting panicked, yet she was smiling the entire time. She was quite an actress. I wouldn't believe that performance over the phone in a heartbeat. If I hadn't already realized she was a lie. I waited for police with the front door wide open, telling them to come in as soon as they arrived. They were initially enraged and ready for a fight, but the house was clean and there was no evidence of a fight. My wife ran out of the bedroom, grabbed one of the policeman's vests, and cried, calling me a maniac. I asked one of the other cops if I could show them evidence of what was going on, and he agreed, which surprised my wife because she was unaware that I was recording her. I showed the officer footage from the cameras on a laptop of my wife claiming she'd make things up to harm my life. Then there's film from the living room when she ran out of my office and into the master bedroom down the hall. Then there was film from the bedroom camera of her contacting the police and lying. I videotaped everything, and not just from one perspective. And, despite her assertion to the police that I hit her, there were no scars on her, and cameras all over the house revealed an entirely different tale. Then I handed the cops a thumb drive and stated it contained all of the video footage they needed of her calling them on false pretenses. Despite all of this, my wife persisted in her lie that I was an abuser, even claiming that the recordings were unlawful and so inadmissible. However, I pointed out that they were illegal because they were security cameras installed inside my own home and not filmed in public. My wife looked at the cops and told them to do something too, which they did. She was the one who was handcuffed, and she burst into tears like a kid. I could only sit and shake my head. This was once the woman I adored for many years. I felt she was a wonderful, intelligent, and endearing individual. I could not have been more wrong. As the cops led her away, she cried that they couldn't do this to her but didn't fight back much. Otherwise, she would have faced additional penalties for resisting arrest. I then canceled all of her credit cards in my name and blocked any future payments into the joint bank account, forcing her to use all of her own money to get out of jail. She had saved a lot of money over the years. She was still working while the mortgage was solely on me, so she was far from broke. She returned for her car, which I had taken the liberty of using, packed a few of her luggage with her clothing and other items, and left the key on the seat. So she was unable to return to the house. A day after my wife bailed herself out of jail, her parents came to meet with me. Initially, they only had the reverse story she told them, which was almost identical to what she tried to tell police. Her father, especially, was prepared to attack me. Despite his advanced age, he is large and muscular. But when I asked him if he knew anything about my wife's affair or her pregnancy, he seemed astonished and gave me the opportunity to explain myself. When my in-laws discovered the truth, I got out my laptop again to show them what I had taped. They were disgusted and couldn't believe she was their daughter. They apologized and promised to keep in touch to help with my children. Then they phoned my wife on speaker right in front of me and confronted her with their falsehoods. She tried to double down until they confirmed they were with my father and showed her the tapes. They knew everything and wanted her out of their house right away. She tried to backtrack, but my in-laws said they did not raise her to be a selfish, adulterous tramp who would attempt to frame her own husband, and she was no longer their daughter. They disowned her on the phone immediately away and hung up before my wife could say anything more. She tried calling back, but they ignored her every time. When they returned home, she had not only left, but she had also destroyed various items in their home, which had my mother-in-law in tears. I still consider my ex's parents to be my in-laws because they visit their grandchildren on occasion. but my ex is effectively dead to all of us. My wife later returned with a rape and a pack of stuff. AP did not even enter into the house, and my wife refused to speak to me while packing her remaining belongings. She was aware that cameras were everywhere, and she would be damned if she tried anything else. I wasn't alone, either. My sister and brother-in-law were there to keep an eye on AP from the window. My wife was still packing when the kids arrived home, and she made no attempt to speak with either of them. Not even when our youngest grieved for her before departing. She did pull a few of our wedding photos from the wall and hurl them on the floor to shatter them. I believe she was anticipating a reaction from me because of how she stared at me while doing it. But because I did not say anything, she simply took the remainder of her bags and went out the door. After she left, I had to contact my elderly mother to come stay with me for a time because I couldn't care for my children alone. I couldn't take much time off work. I didn't have many daycare options either. I also ordered DNA tests for my children. I was certain they were mine, but numerous people confirmed it just in case I needed to know. Fortunately, yes, my 2 children are mine. And, yay, I was tested for STIs, and I am clean. So no concerns. About a week later, my wife returned to my door, stating that she would agree to a clean divorce if I did as well, which meant she would have received half of everything if I had consented. But I said no to her face. There was some back and forth, and she eventually recognized that the state law was not on her side. We met, got engaged, married, and have spent our entire lives in this state. There was no way she could avoid taking a significant loss unless I agreed to settle. I also placed an order. Then I claimed she betrayed me, our children, her parents, and almost everyone else by having an affair. Then I slammed the door on her face. She gently went, and I did not see her again until a few months later in divorce court. My wife was visibly pregnant by then, and she'd hired a lawyer. AP was likewise nowhere to be found. I also instructed her to lie to the judge, which she did a few times, but I had enough video proof to counter any lies, so she didn't have a chance. Instead, she attempted to prolong the divorce by simply refusing to comply and making a variety of demands. She wanted the majority of my savings, as well as a long list of other items I owned, and she wanted me to buy out her share of the house, even though she had never paid for it. I also thought I was pushing for full custody of the children and removing her name from the house deed. I had video proof to back up her claims that she no longer cared about her children and would tell lies. My wife attempted to stall and amend her demands several times, but the judge refused to allow her do so. This was a nightmare, saying that she was entitled to very little because she was the adult. Her attempts to frame me exacerbated her situation. I also lost custody of her children and walked away with nothing but her stuff. What would be a fair financial settlement, given the circumstances and the car I had previously purchased for her? The title was in my name, but I signed it over without hesitation as part of the settlement. She had made no attempt to communicate with our children throughout the divorce, so I was granted full custody. The house is now wholly mine, and I am completely free of her. I also believed his wife attempted to continue lying about me to others prior to and during the divorce process. But my sister spread the information about my wife's infidelity, and all of our mutual acquaintances cut her off. They recognized it was telling the truth. She and her AP left town together following their divorce. I overheard AP. He was not fired, but he was reassigned to the location I specified. But I know my ex had to accompany him. They could have frozen him and my ex in Greenland for all I cared. I'm just glad they both departed. My ex should have had her do-over kid by now, and I hope it was worthwhile for her. This is not what I expected to post on Reddit after discussing my wife releasing a bunny where a horse could get. However, many of the prior comments I received regarding my wife's behavior made me understand that I should have noticed the red lights far sooner. I believe I just kept rose-tinted glasses on throughout our marriage. But it's over now. Thank you to everybody who got through this. I understand it was a lot to read, but this is my life. Edit. I removed my ex's name from the house deed because all available bank documents proved that only I had ever paid into it. My ex was also always arguing with the judge and in a state. Being a confirmed cheater might get you in a lot of problems during a divorce. It's similar to having a signed prenup against you, and I stated I had the meanest lawyer at the firm I went to. I intended it. The man resembled a bear and a shark. My wife received a $60,000 payout, as well as the car I purchased for her brand new a few years ago. That cost me $50,000. The car was paid off, and I handed the title to her. My ex was also offered half custody of our children. However, after the video of her admitting she no longer cared about them was released, she stopped bothering with custody and willingly ceded all rights to her children when she realized she couldn't escape. And if you believe cops wouldn't have arrested my ex for lying, think again. The cops here don't mess around. She also attempted to paint me as a wife abuser, with a psychotic smirk on her face. I also prepare for arrest. I agree. Thank you for taking the time to hear today's tales. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you have not already. Also, leave a comment below with your thoughts on what transpired. If you have a tale to share with me regarding your own or someone else's circumstance, please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.